I find something interesting before we go, is that Christ, I would say, even through infamy on those who believe Judaism, even through infamy, we must agree that Christ is the most famous Jew that have ever graced the earth. I'm talking about from a wide perspective and view from all people, not just Jewish people. That would be the one Jew that's the most famous Jew that have ever graced the earth. Right? I'm just talking about notoriety. Would you say that?
Well, according to Kabbalah,
I'm not talking about Kabbalah. I'm talking about just even through regular people in the earth who didn't know anything about Kabbalah or nothing. If they think of Jew, and say who's the most famous Jew that have ever graced the planet, and ask any random person, they'll say Jesus. Wouldn't you agree to that?
I would have guessed Moses, but maybe you're making a good point. But according to the Kabbalah, what I was saying before is Christianity, from our perspective, played a role in taking the light of the redemption into this dark side and debriefing the whole world on the house of David that will eventually have a redeemer come forth. So
I'm saying, but I'm not talking about your view. I'm talking about just a general view. If you was to ask somebody on the corner, regardless of religion, ethnicity or whatever, and say, well, who's the most famous Jew you think have graced the planet? Even if they don't believe in anything, they would say Jesus.
Yeah, well,
as a consensus, don't you believe that's true?
Let's say that was the case, and I agree with you. I'm not the census master, but if that was what is reality, I would just add to that from our perspective, there's a very deep purpose of why that would be the case.
Okay, well, even though there's a purpose, it's so. So let me ask you this. It seems like that famous Jew, which is the most famous, a matter of fact, it's through him, as an extension of me growing up as Christians, is why I revered and respected the Jews that I didn't know anything about religiously. By proxy, I respected Jews, white Jews, because of Christ. That's my personal observation. Now, it seems like that's the only Jew that can be offended online without anyone labeling people anti-Semite. Why do you think that's so?
The Jews don't really take ownership for him, because so you can say whatever you want about him. It's not something we have a personal issue with. We believe we don't declare a human Messiah until he does three things.
Hold up. I'm gonna let you get your point. Christians, I need y'all to hear this. Christians, I need you all to hear this. So they don't care what people say negative about Christ. Okay, he's disowned. You said that, listen, I don't care what people say about him. Isn't that what you just said?
Well, we don't say mean things about people, but we're not triggered if someone wants to talk about him. It doesn't.
What I'm saying is, if I say something negative about Jews as a group, I'm labeled anti-Semite. But the most famous Jew that have ever graced the planet, anyone can say something negative about him, even Jewish people, and not be labeled. You don't see anything wrong with that?
Absolutely not. There's every year for the last 2,000 years there's been Jews whose books have been burned and kicked out of the community for not passing on what everyone heard from their father. So if someone deviated from what everyone heard from their father, it was just expelled from the community. You get kicked out.
So I take it you could care less about Christ.
I mean, I don't care about most things, but I love reality.
Now I'm talking about Christ in particular. You don't really care about him like that, do you?
I don't even know how you're supposed to care about him. He's a historical figure, one out of billions, but it seems that he played a role in disseminating the information about the House of Israel and the gathering and the.
Well, I'm gonna say this. Let me say this. The respect that Christians and myself in particular had for Jews as a group wasn't through our belief in Moses. I'm gonna say that it was because of Christ. You all gained respect. Listen, you all gained respect as a group through our ignorance and us believing that there was an attachment with you to him. Last question, because I know you have to go, and then we're going to pick up part 2 next week.
I'm looking forward.
You're looking forward to it. So am I. Next week, we're going to lay out some stuff. It's really going to be good for you. Revelations 2:9, 3:9, where Christ says, I know thy works in blasphemy. Thy works in tribulation, speaking of his people, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. What is your view on that Bible verse?
I always just, first of all, we don't even hold to the New Testament stuff because we don't trust the authors of it. But secondly, if I would look into that, I would just look at the people who are openly serving Satan today. You know, a lot of satanic worship in American culture goes back to Vatican, Jesuit stuff, and the founding Council of Nicaea, and they say that they're the God-chosen people. This church and the Vatican, they're representing God. That they are now the chosen people.
Oh no, the Vatican is of the devil. Okay, let's make that clear. So we could agree both on that one.
It's not talking about me and my friends studying Torah. It's talking about people actually worshiping Satan and that are very dark.
Okay.
Scary.
Okay. Now, one day we're going to go into a conversation of the gospel concerning those actual people. Let's pick that up next week, part 2, if we may. Okay?
Yes.
Rabbi Rosenberg, thank you for your presence and piecing out some time for us. I mean, I'm chopping at the bit. I cannot wait for part 2. What say you? You have a great evening and shalom, and may Christ be with you.
Blessings to you and your congregation. Thank you.
All right, bless you. All right, there go Rabbi Rosenberg. I'll tell you this, I can't wait for part 2. And I know a lot of brothers and sisters saying, Elder Ricos, y'all, you should have said this, you should have did this, you should have did that. Listen, folks, be patient. Be patient. With patience, possess ye your soul. Let me put that over there. Just be a little patient. Just be a little patient. Because guess what? It's not about conflict. It's about letting people say what they truly believe. Let them say what they truly believe. Our people are waking up, folks. And I kept Christ's question for last. And brothers and sisters, I wasn't the least bit offended with his view on Christ. But I wanted to make a point, and it's not his fault, a point of certain hypocrisies generally when it comes to that view against Christ.